let's talk about the latest on that Titanic sub disaster. Sadly, after I went off air on Thursday, we discovered that awful, sad loss of life, those 5 souls dead. But really now the recriminations are starting. Rear Admiral Dr. Chris Parry joined us throughout last week to give his thoughts on that search, and joins us once again. Good morning to you, Chris.
Morning, Julia.
Morning. Look, you were clear right from the get-go. Monday morning last week, look, the subs lost. Sadly, all 5 souls lost on board. This was a search for the wreckage. Eventually, the wreckage was found. It's clear that the US Coast Guard, the military, they had actually heard signs of an explosion or an implosion, and thought this was the case. But now they know they found the debris. But now we're hearing from many people. They've been on the, or we're going to go on the sub. They realised the concerns about safety. So many people had contacted the sub owner, who sadly lost his life at Oceangate, to say this sub should not be operating. Do you think that we are going to end up seeing, well, some not just criminal but civil claims as well?
Oh, of course it will, and it'll be interesting to see where they land. I suspect it's going to land in Canada, to tell the truth, because the Polar Prince, which was the vessel that dispatched Titan, is registered in Canada. And in an area where you've got no regulation in international waters or in the sort of sector, I suspect the flag state of the vessel will be the one that handles this.
But that's it. It was an uncertified sub. It was able to be operated because it was in international waters. But that is a real concern, isn't it? Because I suppose it's different from airlines. If an airline goes down, then that's going to have an impact on people. But of course, millions of dollars spent on that search for the sub in the vain hope that those 5 people were still alive.
Do you know, Julia, I don't think that's a bad thing. We actually proved we could have done it. I mean, I was sceptical on Monday that we could actually do it. And the Americans came up with a very good solution, which had a fantastic underwater vehicle attached to a very long piece of wire that could have done it. So the positive thing on that side is we proved we could have done it had they been alive.
So almost a training exercise that could be used in future in a situation where someone would be found alive. I think the person most of us feel most sorry for is, of course, well, the saddest loss of life is the loss of Suleiman Dawood, who went down with his father for a Father's Day gift, effectively. His wife originally had been planning before the COVID, she said, to go on this Titanic trip. Christine has said that that she and her husband Shahzada Dawood had booked the trip for the Titanic wreck for themselves. Her son did go down. We'd heard that he didn't want to go. It was his dad who wanted him to go, and he wanted to please him. We also heard that apparently he took a Rubik's Cube. He wanted to break a record. The whole thing just seems so utterly tragic and almost such a banal loss of life in that sense, and sort of the awfulness of that. They weren't saving anybody. They weren't going to, forward mankind's, knowledge of the world. It wasn't a major expedition to explore. It was just a sightseeing trip. And my thought when I heard about this was, what a damn stupid way to lose your life, and especially at 19.
I think the real problem for me, Julia, is I'm very happy for people to do this, but I don't think the cost-benefit analysis was done. Every time you do something like this, it's like going into space. It has to go right in all aspects every time. There is no margin for error, and the risks were blatant here. And I don't think it was exposed to the passengers at all, just how experimental, in inverted commas, I would say dodgy this craft was. I mean, if you have an academic paper, it's never really authoritative until it's been peer reviewed. Every peer in this sector was saying this was dangerous.
And they're not saying it after the fact. They had written to the Oceangate founder and said, look, this you should not be selling tickets on this project. It's not safe.
I have an acquaintance who won the lottery last year, and he actually wrote to Oceangate saying, can I come on this expedition? And wrote twice saying, can you reassure me about all these safety concerns? And he got no reply. So that tells you all about this company, utterly irresponsible, and I'm afraid should face the most severe litigation, in my view.
Indeed. Look, we often speak to you also about defence issues. Just briefly, your reaction to that attempted mutiny by Yevgeny Prigozhin, the leader of the Wagner Group, against Vladimir Putin. What happens next?
Yeah, Julia, on that, I think one thing I would say is that Putin was weak before. And it was the fact that Prigozhin is suspicious about the other factions around Putin, and that Putin is actually just a puppet now in the Kremlin. There are other factions manoeuvring now to replace him. I think Prigozhin knew that. which is why basically it was a cry for attention. And,
Interesting.
Yeah, and to make sure he stayed in the space. We've got to remember it's a mafia state, and Godfather rules apply here. So what happens next is we're going to see a transition. I think Putin's going to be edged out. Prigozhin's cooling his heels. He's still a player.
We shall wait and see. Rear Admiral Dr. Chris Parry, CBA, thank you, as always, for taking the time to talk to us.